Welcome to the Intentional Awakening Podcast with your hosts, Kathy Brewer and Terry Huberman.
Well, hello there and welcome to the Intentional Awakening Podcast. I'm Terry Huberman.
And I am your co-host, Kathy Groover, and we are starting this episode, as we do every episode, with an angel card. So the angel card today is commitment. And it says, honor your words, stay steadfast on your path, remain dependable and engaged amidst the flux of life, choices, and activities. And there's a little angel sitting at its desk, like just working away. And I love that it used the word flux. Who Flux, flux is such a good word. So so commitment is your word for the day, but that is not what we're talking about today. So Terry and I, as you probably noticed, are deep believers in sort of all things spiritual. And we get a little woo, not that woo, but a little woo sometimes. And I don't know about you, Terry, but there's been plenty of times in my life where I bring up something like tarot cards or past lives or soul contracts or, all the things we've been talking about. And the person looks at me like I've got 32 heads and that I'm going blah, 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 and that I'm not speaking. Right. They heard the Charlie Brown voice. So we thought today we'd talk about how to have conversations with people who don't believe what you do. We're going to try not to go crazy, like political with this, because this could go any number of places. But, there are people of different belief systems and different spiritualities. And we thought we'd talk about how to talk to those people.
Yeah. I think the most important part to understand, and this you can actually apply to various areas of because if you're in awakening, that means you're in transition, you're transforming, you're healing, you're changing. So you're not the same person you used to be. And you're in the becoming stage because you're not quite where you want to go anyways. I don't know if we ever get there till we leave our earth suit anyways. But my point is that you are doing some sort of internal reflection or some sort of work. And I think the first thing to understand is that not everybody is at the same place that you are. And we get so excited and we have so much passion and there's so much joie de vivre when we're on a path of awakening. And we're experiencing these changes and we're seeing different synchronicities and all of this stuff. So we get like so amped up about it. And I think the first step in, honestly, to talking to somebody who's not maybe either open or where we're at is to understand and maybe have some sympathy and empathy towards the fact that they are not where we're at. So they're not going to get it. So part of it is an acceptance level and it's not an elitist kind of thing where it's like, oh, I'm here and they're not. The minute you do that, you ruin everything for everyone. But it's just this understanding that maybe coming from a place of compassion where it's like, we may not be speaking the same language. So I need to understand and accept that as our first basis before we even have conversation, because energy influences energy. I will keep saying that over and over. So they're going to feel what you have to say before you actually use words and articulate what you're going to say.
Yeah.
So I think that would be the first step. What do you think, Kathy?
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think, it's like when I was going through all the different courses I was taking to do the healing work that I do. When I was learning about homeopathics, oh my God, everyone should try homeopathics. When I was learning about herbs, there's an herb for everybody. We get so, like you said, amped about this new thing that's helping us. So we want to share it with everybody because it will help them. So I don't think it typically comes from a place of, I need to be right. I think it comes from a place of, oh my God, this pen is the greatest pen I've ever used. And I think everyone should use this kind of pen because it made my life so much easier. Exactly. So I think it does come from that excitement of wanting to share what you're doing. And I also think, I'm reading a book called Awake because I'm reading all these books right now. And he was talking about beliefs. And he was talking about how beliefs get us in trouble
Mm-hmm.
because as soon as we believe something, it creates an us versus them.
Sure.
And so he was encouraging us to drop beliefs. And he had this whole great questionnaire in there. Maybe we'll go through that sometime as a show. I think that'd be really cool. Talking
Yeah.
about what we believe. And I had someone years ago, a very, very Christian friend of mine, and he said, "Do you even believe in God?" And I said, "No, I don't believe in God. I know God." And he just
Mm-hmm.
kind of stood there and looked confused at me. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
"Look, I don't have to believe that my husband loves me. I know that my husband loves me. So what do we know truly as our truth? And what are these beliefs that we feel like we have to convince other people of?" So I think if you're confident in your knowing, then
Mm-hmm.
you don't necessarily have to. It's great to share, but here's the other thing: we're never going to change it. Mm. I was
I
going to say, we're
know.
never going to change anybody's mind. That's not true because I've had spiritual conversations where people don't get the ghost or the past life thing. And by the time we talk about it, they go, "Oh my God, I totally get it. I'm still not
Yeah.
sure I believe it, but I now understand what you're talking about."
Sure.
If you go at any of these conversations, not trying to convince the person that you're
Mm-hmm.
right, not having to be right, not having to
Mm-hmm.
believe that you guys are separate, I think that's maybe the second step of what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's allowing someone else to be where they're at, right? So I think what you were describing was you can't change somebody's mind, but you can influence, right? And we have our God-given gift of free will, so we get to
Mhm.
choose, which means we can choose at any moment and over and over and over again.
Yep.
So, you know, this happens to me all the time, Kathy. I don't know if this happens to you, but I'll hear the same concept or the same words from different teachers, and then one day it just clicks, right? But up until then, it was like, nah, nah, nah. And then all of a sudden it clicks. I believe that it's clicking at that moment because I've had the evolution. I have the knowledge and the wisdom to really understand that concept. Whereas before, when you were, or any teacher was sharing that information, I wasn't quite at that stage
Yep.
because I didn't have the experience. I didn't have the knowledge, which is what equals wisdom, right? So I didn't even
Yeah.
have the wisdom to sort of open up and to receive that. So that's also part of the acceptance of someone may not be able to get what you're saying right then and there, but like a year later, they might fully receive it,
Yep.
right? And that's because they still have more evolution to go through, more experience to go through.
Yeah.
So it's really, I feel like it's a delicate matter talking to somebody because you don't want to offend somebody, right? Because that's loving kindness,
Yep.
right? Where we're trying to be as loving and kind as possible. And you don't want them to shut down.
Right. And you don't want to make them wrong.
And you don't want to make them wrong or bad or feel shame because they can't see or experience or receive what you're receiving. So it's a really delicate dance. And a lot of times I just, the way I approach it, because, as a psychic and a medium, I get so much, that's bullshit, and it's like, that's fine, right? So from my perspective, anything in healing or psychism or mediumship or whatever, I just give information.
Yep.
And then I allow somebody to receive that in the way that they want to, but still making myself available in case they have questions. I want them to know that it's cool
Yep.
to be okay with their opinion or their perspective or whatnot. And that's what I was saying. You could apply this in so many areas of your life.
Right.
But since we're just on this topic, it's a really great tool. I haven't read the book yet, but Mel Robbins has a book called Let Them, which I'm
Oh,
assuming
5 million people have mentioned this book to me in the last week.
and I'm assuming that that's about let them be who they are,
Uh, I
So
think
I
it's
don't
about
know. I haven't
I
Again, I
think
haven't read it, but
it's always come up in the context of like asking for help and like letting people do things for you.
oh, okay, yeah,
Now, so
okay,
I
great.
don't know which way. I
I'm
haven't read it either, but everyone keeps bringing it up. So
yeah,
to go back to your point about the in time things happen, right?
yeah.
I am a certain number of years old, and I've never been able to do a pull up in my life. No matter
Mm,
how strong I was, no matter what weight I was, I've never been able to do a pull up. Just haven't.
mm.
I've tried, I've done the reverse things, the lowers, I've never been able to do it. And about 6 months ago, we have a trapeze bar in our living room because, doesn't
You're a
everybody?
trapeze artist.
So I was hanging there and I was stretching and I was just sort of like doing some activate. And I'm just all of a sudden I pulled up and I was like, oh my God, oh my God. It just came to me then. Now I don't
Yeah,
know how long I was able to do that,
sure.
but it was that moment that I discovered I could do that thing. That's when everything clicked and the knowledge hit me, even though I've been trying for years, that I could finally do that thing. And I stood in my living room and cried because I've never been able
Mm.
to do that before. And then the next day I did too.
Ah,
And my
ah.
husband said, so where do you want to take this? And I
Oh
went,
boy.
what? And I said, I took it. It's took. It's
It's
tooken.
took.
It's took.
It's
It's
been
done.
took.
I crossed it off. It been took. And so I occasionally try one, but it's that same thing. It's like that moment it
Yeah.
clicked,
Yeah.
and years of trying it, and I'm not a big
Yeah.
fan of trying because that indicates
Yeah.
failure.
Yeah.
Um,
Attempting.
attempt. Well, yeah,
Doing it. I mean,
I'm
like
doing it. Yeah,
just being unsuccessful. That's all
it
for that.
finally clicked.
Yeah.
The other thing is when I'm talking to someone who doesn't believe the way I do, I make sure I don't use crazy acronyms. I
Yeah.
try
Yeah.
not to come from this place of arrogance of, oh, well,
Yes.
I've
Yeah.
had so many past life regressions. I say it very simply. I use very pedestrian language. And then I'll say always, say, do you have any questions about that? Or does that make sense to you? Or what do you think
Mm-hmm.
of what I just said?
Yeah.
And then I encourage a dialogue with that. Now, if this is, crazy Uncle Joe at Thanksgiving and he's drunk in the corner and he's never going to hear what you have to say, don't cast your pearls before swine. Don't keep hammering at crazy drunk
Yeah.
Joe because he's not going to get it. He
Yeah.
doesn't want to get it. He's not open to it. And you might be levitating in the living room and he's still not going to understand that you have this magical power. Leave it go. Let it go.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
not going to convince people like that. You're not going to change their mind. You're not going to win. You're not going to be told you're right. Just be conscious of who you're giving your energy to because you're just going to spin your wheels. You're going to drive yourself crazy. You're going to ruin Thanksgiving. Let crazy Joe just believe what he wants.
Yeah, that actually leads me to this thought that you can really get triggered into your own narrative and stories about whatever you have. Like I have one where I'm stupid. Okay. It's ridiculous, right? So if I'm having a conversation with somebody and they're just not seeing eye to eye with me, and I'm not going, well, they're allowed to have their own opinion and da 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 and all that, I start defending myself and how I'm not stupid. Right? Because that's my storyline or a
Mhm.
storyline. I have
Yep.
many. Thank you very much. But you can easily get triggered into some sort of defense mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's become an argument and a power play.
Yeah.
And it's just not worth it.
It's not productive.
It's not productive. And you're making it worse. Now they will, I shouldn't say never, but now it's going to be very difficult for them to see your point of view.
Or the next person that has this conversation with them because they're going to say, oh,
Right.
well, my
Oh,
stupid
well.
sister Terry said the
Yeah.
same thing. And they're going to be close to that
Yeah.
concept.
Yeah.
Know when to
Yeah.
pick your battles carefully because
Yeah.
I know what I believe. I know what I know to be true.
Mhm.
I'm very confident in what I know from this realm. If nobody else in the world ever believes me, I honestly don't really care
Yeah.
because
Well, you got to
I
get
know
to
what
that
I know.
point though, Kathy. You've gotten to that point because a
Yeah,
lot of people are not at that point. And
sure.
especially when you're in awakening, you're actually really vulnerable, I feel, because like you're in butterfly cocoon. So you're mush. You're not quite out of the cocoon
The
yet.
goo. Mm-hmm.
The goo. You're in the goo. So our confidence level may not be, we may not have that inner authority that's strong enough for us to take the stand. Now, I've been doing this for a while, so I've been through the ringer, and I know how, because I've had a lot of practice. I know how to compartmentalize.
Yep.
Right. But if you're new and you don't know how to do that, you really do have to be careful. And when I'm talking about careful, I'm talking about for your mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Right? Because your job is not to convince someone else. Your job is just to express your bliss.
Yeah. Well, and what that I'm going to just throw that on the floor. What just triggered that in me is, so let's say you're newer to this realm, right? You're starting to explore. You maybe just had your cards read. You had an astrology reading. You read a book about awakening and you're like, woohoo, I'm doing it. We're excited about that. And we want to share that with people, not necessarily because we want to try to convince them that we found the thing, but because we're verbal processors and we want to share this because it helps us figure things out. If you're trying to process that with crazy Uncle Joe at Thanksgiving, it's not going to go well. Find other people who believe like you to have those conversations. So that way you can bounce these ideas off of and find validation, find more mentorship, find that sort of thing. Don't make the first person you tell this the one that you know is going to try to dispel everything you just said, because that's not going to help your evolution either.
Yeah, make it quick. Like, find your information quick. And what I mean by that is this person receptive or not? If they're not receptive, that is your cue to like go find someone else. If you need to express, find someone else. But like, don't sit there and wait for them to feel the same way you do, because you could be there for a long time. You're leaking your energy.
Yes.
Right. And just find out quick if you say something and they're like, or their bodies, if they start crossing their arm, or you can start to feel, you can tell someone's closed off. They just need to tell you that one time, right there and then. Go on to somebody else. Take that information and hold it. They may come back to you. Actually, you have a better chance of them asking you more questions.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't dwell in the fact that they're not receiving your information.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the always leave them wanting more thing. I mean, that's a thing. Leave them wanting more.
It's a theater thing, but it works.
It totally works. It totally works. So we're gonna leave you wanting more because we're at our time. This is what a great conversation. And at some point we'll talk. I was just sitting with Adyashanti for a workshop, and I had some very interesting exchanges with people along these lines. So
great.
It's gonna be fun. So I'm Kathy Groover. I can be reached at kathygruver.coach.
And I'm Terry Huberman. You can find me at terryhuberman.com. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you in the next episode of Intentional Awakening Podcast.